Hello, good morning everyone. Today we are today we are briefly explaining that the new topic, the important topic that is the state executive or the governor. The office of the governor in the Indian political system is not something new. In fact, it is as old as the East India Company and dates back to 1600. The charter granted by the Queen on 31st December 1600 provided for the office of the governor elected by the company in addition to 24 committees. The charter was granted for a period of 15 years and Thomas Smith Alderman of London was appointed the first governor. It is important to note that with the extension of the powers of the company by the Act of 1609 and 1615, 1623 and 1657, the office of the governor also became important. It was only after the Battle of Plassey in 1757 the East India Company became the dominant power by assuming sovereign authority over a large number of territories, which later on were divided into provinces. Each province was governed by chief executive known either as the governor or the lieutenant governor. Subsequent acts like the Regulating Act 1773, Pitt's India Act 1784 and 1807, 1833 and 1909 and 1935 acts directly or indirectly affected the office of the governor. By the Government of India Act 1919, a new device known as duchy was introduced in the provinces. Under this system, the provincial matters were divided into two parts of the transferred and reserved subjects. The transferred subjects were to be administered by governor with the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. Accountable to the Legislative Council, on the other hand, the reserved subjects were to be administered by the governor and his executive council without being responsible to the Legislative Council. However, it is worth noting that the Act did not make clear-cut line of demarcation between the reserved and transferred subjects. The Government of India Act 1935 was the first act which may be said to have introduced to some extent a parliamentary system of India. The governor was to exercise the executive authority of the province and the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. But he had the power to act in his discretion and individual judgment. Ashok K. Sen argues in his book that with the setting up of provincial autonomy under the Government of India Act 1935, the governor in the province also came to assume a dual position. Article 74 and 75 of the Constitution deal with Council of Ministers at the centre, and Article 163 and 164 that deal with state cabinets are similarly worked. Article 74 of the Indian Constitution categorically provides that the President shall exercise of his functions in accordance with the aid and advice given by the Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister. The exemption is that since the Article 163 being very vague and ambiguous were challenged in several occasions the courts of law. In one of the cases, Calcutta High Court declared the governor under the present constitution cannot accept in accordance with the advice of his ministers. Under the Government of India Act 1935, the position was different. The governor could do certain acts in his individual capacity, that is only after consulting matters, but he was not bound when action in his individual capacity to follow the advice of the ministers under the present constitution. The power to act in his discretion or in his individual capacity has been taken away, and the governor, therefore, must act on the advice of his ministers. According to Basu, it would be possible to a governor to act without ministerial advice in certain other matters, though they are not specified in the constitution as discretionary functions reporting to the president under Article 356, and a reservation of bills for the considerations of the president may be cited into instance. The late P. Govinda Menon, former Union Law Minister, was of the opinion that the governor had the power to exercise his discretion regarding appointment of the chief minister, dismissal of the ministry, and reservation of bills. Position of the governor in the context of central-state relations. The governor's integrity of a measure of independence vis-a-vis the center are indispensable to the autonomy of the state. The position of the governor under the constitution, the method of appointment of the governor is of great importance to the context. The study team appointed by Administrative Reforms Commission headed by M.C. Stavlad had given a step further and recommended that no person who is appointed governor should take part in politics after his appointment as such, not even after retirement. Similarly, K. Subbarao, a former Chief Justice of India, suggested that a governor should be ineligible for any other office under the government after retirement, should be irremovable from office or on any ground other than proven misbehavior or incapacity after inquiry by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court of India, the Supreme Court held on January 26, 1950, declared India to be a sovereign socialist, secular, democratic republic. It provides for a president as the head of the union government, who is elected by the representative of the people, that is, Parliament and the state legislature. India is a union of states, and the top of the state administration is a functionary called governor, who is nominated by the central government. The executive authority of a province rests in him, and this vesting of the executive authority in the governor shows that his position is similar to the President of India. But the actual experience of the working of 4 decades of the Constitution shows that the office of the governor has assumed a tremendous significance in the center-state relationship. Many occasions the governor has to take decisions of reaching consequences which affect the entire Indian polity. Whether a such decision is taken in his individual capacity or as the representative of the center or as the constitutional head of the state, the governor has continued to remain a center of political controversy. Appointment of governor. As the governor occupies a very important place under the constitution, he in fact is the only coordinating link between the union and the states. It is his duty to see that the state government runs strictly according to the provisions of the constitution, and the directives sent from time to time by the union government to the state government are implemented. Article 153 of the Indian Constitution provides that there shall be a governor for each state. But the Constitution also makes provision that the same person can be appointed as a governor for 2 or more states. According to Article 155, the governor of a state shall be appointed by the President by warrant under his hand and the seal. A person is not eligible to be appointed as a governor unless he is a citizen of India and has completed the age of 35 years. A person appointed as a governor cannot be a member of any house of a legislature in India, and If he was such a member at the time of his appointment, he is deemed to have vacated his seat in such legislature when he enters upon his office. Further, he cannot hold any office of profit. He is entitled to official residence free of rent, and such allowances and privileges may be determined by Parliament by law. He can resign by writing address to the President. The Constitution does not make the Governor responsible to anybody except to the extent that he hold his office during the pleasure of the President, and he has to take an oath before enter upon his office, faithfully execute the office of the Governor, and to the best of his ability to preserve and protect the defend the Constitution. On the other hand, the Constitution especially immense the Governor from the coming answerable to any court for the exercise and performance of the powers and duties of his office, or for any act done purported to be done by him in the exercise and performance of his powers and duties. No criminal proceedings can be instituted against the Governor of a state in any form during his term of office, and not civil process for his arrest or imprisonment can be issued from any court during his term of office. The words during the pleasure of the President means that as the central executive wants him in that office, it can remove the Governor on any ground, example, bribery, corruption, violation of the Constitution, etc. Subject to the overall condition, a Governor holds office for the years. The Constitution is silent about the term of the office of the Governor. The Constitution makes no provision such as death or illness of the Governor. The President may make such provision as he thinks fit for discharging of the functions of the Governor of the state. Though the term of office of the Governor is fixed for 5 years, but practically sometimes he is removed before the expiry of his term. Governors are transferred from one state to another. For all these questions, our Constitution is silent. If the Governor is removed from his office before the expiry of his term of office without assigning any reason, it would be fraud on the Constitution of India. Article 156 Clause 3 controlled by Article 156 Clause 1. The President in exercise of his pleasure by cut short the 5 years term of the Governor. Consequently, the President can ask the Governor to resign or may terminate his term of office. The Governor may be removed by any expression of presidential disclosure before the normal term of 5 years, and the presidential pleasure under Article 156 Clause 1 is unjustifiable. Powers of the Governor. The powers of the Governor can be classified under 4 heads: executive power, financial power, legislative power, and judicial power. Executive power. The executive power of the state is vested in the Governor and is to be exercised by him directly or through officers subordinate to him under Article 154. Article 162 says that the executive power of the state extends to matters with respect to which the legislature of the state has power to make laws. All executive actions of the government of a state shall be expressed to be taken in the name of the Governor. Orders and instruments made and executed in the name of the Governor shall be authenticated in the manner specified in the rules made by the Governor. The validity of the order of the instrument which is so authenticated shall not be called in question on the ground that it was not made or executed by the Governor. Real executive powers vested in the Council of Ministers. The Supreme Court in Ramjavaya Kapoor v. State of Punjab was held that our Constitution has adopted the British system of parliamentary form of government, and the basic principle of this type of government is that the President and the Governors are constitutional heads and the real executive powers are vested in the Council of Ministers. In Shamsher Singh versus State of Punjab, the Supreme Court has held that the President and the Governors are only constitutional heads and they exercise their powers and functions with the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers and not personally save in cases where the Governor is required by the Constitution to exercise his function in his discretion. The appointment as well as removal of the members of the subordinate judicial services is an executive function of the Governor to be exercised on the advice of the Council of Ministers. Wherever the consultation requires the satisfaction of the President or the Governor, the satisfaction is not the personal satisfaction of the President or Governor, but it is the satisfaction of the Council of Ministers. In Sardari Lal versus Union of India, in which it was held that where the President or the Governor is satisfied, make an order under Article 311 Clause 2, satisfaction of the President or Governor is his personal satisfaction. And financial powers. A money bill cannot be introduced in the Legislative Assembly of the state without the recommendation of the Governor. No demand of grants can be made except on the recommendation of the Governor under Article 203 Clause 3. The Governor is required to cause to be laid before the House or Houses of the Legislature annual financial statement known as budget under Article 202 of the Constitution. Legislative powers. The Governor summons the Houses or each House of the Legislature of State to meet at such time and place as he thinks fit. However, 6 months must not lapse between the last sitting in one session and the first in the next session. He may prorogue the House or either House and dissolve the Legislative Assembly. He has a right to address the state legislature. No bill can become a law without the assent of the President or Governor. He has a right to reserve certain bills for the assent of the President. He nominates the 1/6 of the members of the Legislative Council. The most important legislative power of the Governor is his ordinance making power. His ordinance making power is similar to that of the President. Under Article 213, whenever the legislature is not in session and if the Governor is satisfied that the circumstances exist which require to him immediate action, he may legislate by ordinance. However, the Governor cannot issue an ordinance without previous instructions of the President in cases in which a bill would have required his previous sanction, required to be reserved under the Constitution for the assent of the President. Every ordinance is to be laid before both houses of the state legislature and shall cease to operate at the expiry of 6 weeks from the reassembly of the legislature of earlier than 6 weeks if a resolution disapproving it is passed by Legislative Assembly. The Governor may withdraw the ordinance at any time before the expiry of the 6 weeks. The ordinance issued by the Governor shall have the same validity as an act of the legislature. Next important power, the pardoning power. Article 161 says that the Governor shall have the power to grant pardons, reprieves, respites or remissions of punishment or to suspend, remit or commute the sentence of any person convicted of any offence against any law relating to matters to which the executive power of the state extends. The executive power of the state extends to matters with respect to which the legislature of the state has power to make laws under Article 162. A pardon is an act of grace and therefore it cannot be demanded as a matter of right. The effect of pardon is that it not only removes the punishment but in the eye of law places the offenders in the same position as if he had never committed the offence. The executive can exercise the pardoning power at any time after commission of offence, either before legal proceedings are taken or during their tendency or either before or after conviction. And Council of Ministers. Article 163 Clause 1 says that there shall be a Council of Ministers with the Chief Minister as the head to aid and advise the Governor in exercise of his functions. The Council of Ministers in the states is constituted functions in the same way as Union Cabinet. The relationship between Governor and Council of Ministers. In general, the relationship between the Governor and his ministers is same as that between the President and his ministers, with this important difference that while the Constitution does not empower the President to exercise any function, it authorizes the Governor to exercise some function in his discretion. The following are the circumstances where the Governor will be called upon to exercise his discretion. First point, appointment of the Chief Minister, the dismissing of a ministry, the dissolution of Legislative Assembly, advising the President for the proclamation of an emergency under Article 356 of the Constitution. A sharp controversy has of late arisen upon the question whether a governor has the power to dismiss a council of ministers headed by the chief minister on the assumption that the chief minister and his cabinet have lost their majority in the popular house of the legislature. The controversy has been particularly intriguing inasmuch as two governors acted in contrary directions under similar circumstances. In West Bengal 1967, Governor Dharmavira, being of the view that the United Front ministry led by Ajay Mukherjee had lost majority in the Legislative Assembly owing to defections from the party, asked the Chief Minister to call a meeting of the Assembly at short notice, and other letters refusal to do so dismissed the Chief Minister with his ministry. On the other hand, in Uttar Pradesh in 1970, Governor Gopal Reddy dismissed Chief Minister Charan Singh on a similar assumption without even waiting for the verdict of the Assembly, which was scheduled to meet only a few days later. Before answering the question with reference to the preceding instances, it should be noted that the cabinet system of government has been adopted in our constitution from the United Kingdom, and some of the silent conventions underlying the British system have been codified in our constitution. In the absence of anything to the contrary in the context, therefore, it must be concluded that the position under our constitution is same as in the United Kingdom. He can dismiss a council of ministers or the chief minister, whose dismissal means a fall of the council of ministers, only when the Legislative Assembly has expressed its want of confidence in the council of ministers, either by a direct vote of no confidence or censure, or by defeating an important measure or the like, and the governor does not think fit to dissolve the assembly. The governor cannot do so at his pleasure on his subjective estimate of the strength of the chief minister in the assembly at any point of time, because it is for the Legislative Assembly to enforce the collective responsibility of the Council of Ministers to itself under Article 164 Clause 2. The above view that the other has been upheld by the Supreme Court in S.R. Bommai versus Union of India by observing that wherever a doubt arises whether a ministry has lost the confidence of the House, the only was of testing is on the floor of the House. The assessment of the strength of the ministry is not a matter of private opinion of any individual, he, the governor, or the president. Next, the Advocate General. Each state shall have an Advocate General for the state an official corresponding to the Attorney General of India, and having similar functions for the state. He shall be appointed by the governor of the state and shall hold office during the pleasure of the governor. Only a person who is qualified to be a judge of a high court can be appointed Advocate General. He receives such remuneration as the governor may determine. He shall have the right to speak and to take part in the proceedings, but no right to vote in the House of the Legislature of the state. Thank you.